Thanks, John, and good afternoon again from Daytona International Speedway. Today, it's the season opener for the ARCA Racing Series. And some of the great veterans in series history are here to compete today. Bobby Gerhart starts in the 14th position. 9 career victories, 8 of them coming right here at the World Center of Racing. And then there's Frank Kimmel. He's starting dead last after some changes following qualifying, but that's okay because he knows how to get it done. 10 championships for the Southern Indiana native. He's never won here at Daytona. And the young guns, they're up front. What about a couple of 18-year-olds on the front row? William Byron, who will run full-time in the Truck Series this season for Kyle Busch, qualified second, alongside Cole Custer, who becomes the youngest pole sitter ever at Daytona in the ARCA Racing Series. He's piloting the 54 today for Ken Schrader. They're all ready to go and get the green flag in 2016.
Unit approaching board.
There is a peace that lies within for everyone. Yet we anticipate what is to come. We're confident of what is needed, but unsure of what will happen. As the old saying goes, there is a calm before the storm.
Unit arrived.
This year, it's anyone's race. As two-time defending ARCA Series champ, Grant Entfinger has moved on to the Camping World Truck Series, opening the door for others, including former Daytona winners Bobby Gerhart and John West Townley. The stage is set. Who will avoid the big one, and who will find victory lane? Racing in Daytona is next.
Today marks the 53rd time the ARCA Racing Series has competed here on the high banks of Daytona International Speedway. It's the season opener, the Lucas Oil 200. We're happy to have you along on FS1. Now let's hear from our pit reporters. Go trackside. We start things off with Ray Dunlap.
In 1974, Iggy Katona won here at Daytona at the age of 57. Bobby Gerhart hadn't started racing yet, but you've got an opportunity to beat him in the record books today, Bobby. What will it take to win your 9th race at Daytona?
Well, I had the privilege of meeting Iggy. In fact, Ron set up a ride with Iggy, and I and his son are on the racetrack, and pretty cool story. It would mean a lot. It would mean a tremendous amount to me, first of all. I wouldn't say it was a record that I would swing the bat for, but, you know, it's been a great ride, Ray. I love coming here, and a tremendous privilege to compete. I still enjoy to compete, so why not?
He's got a really good car. Bobby Gerhart's run here for 29 consecutive years, and the guy who's with Jim Trado is making his first start.
And Ray, he's doing it in fine fashion. Just 3 days ago, he celebrated his 18th birthday, making his Daytona debut in a big splash. Pole sitter Cole Custer. This has to be exciting, knowing how much is on the line for you in your future going forward as a full-time NASCAR Camping World Truck Series driver. Cole, what do you expect to learn today?
I mean, everything. I'm pretty new at this, so I'm just, trying to soak it up as much as I can, and, hopefully we can stay out front and have a shot to win this thing. And, I'm just going to be trying to learn as much as I can, and I can't thank Haas Automation, Gene Haas, and everybody enough for getting us here, and everybody at Ken Schrader Racing, too. They brought a great car, and it's been an honor to drive for them.
There's a lot in your control, but here at Daytona, anything can happen. How have you planned for the things you can't control?
Yeah, that's been my kind of mindset going into it. There's a lot of things you can control, a lot of things you can't control. So you got to be good at the things that you can't control. So that's what I'm going to be trying to learn and trying to stay out front and working with the guys around me.
Cole Custer has become the youngest driver in ARCA history to win on a Super Speedway, youngest in the Truck Series. Today, he become the youngest driver ever to win an ARCA race here at Daytona.
Thank you, Jim, and hello again, everybody. So good to have you with us high above Daytona International Speedway on a gorgeous Saturday afternoon with Phil Parsons. I'm Adam Alexander, and Phil, the guys just talked about it. One of the storylines we will follow all afternoon long, this balance of youth versus experience.
We just met an 18-year-old Cole Custer who's sitting on the pole here. There are 3 other 18-year-olds with an absolute amazing chance to win this thing and become the youngest winner here ever. William Byron is the guy starting on the outside of the front row. You talked about him earlier. There's his Liberty University Toyota right there. He's our K&N East champion from last year. Starts from the front row. He's finished second in his debut back at LOR last year. And how about Gray Galding here? So good. Won in the K&N West Series at Phoenix before. A lot of top 5 finishes in the K&N East. He will start just outside the top 10. He's another 18-year-old with a chance to win. And Kyle Weatherman, this young man man has had 28 starts in the ARCA Racing Series. He's had 1 win and 7 second-place finishes. He starts back in the 32nd spot. He has his work to do, but he can become the third Kyle, the third 18-year-old Kyle to win here at Daytona, joining Kyle Petty, our youngest winner, and Kyle Busch. It's amazing youth here in this field. And how about some experience here? We talk about Bobby Gerhart. Mark Thompson, 64-year-old Mark Thompson, has had 10 top 5 finishes here and at Talladega, the sister racetrack to this. Mark Thompson's finished second here. He sat in a pole. He hasn't got to victory lane. He wants to change that here today.
When you do your homework for an ARCA race at Daytona, you realize really quickly some big names have gone to victory lane at this place. Your brother, the late Benny Parsons, Iggy Katona, who's second on the all-time wins list. You talked about Kyle Petty. How about Tim Richmond, Ryan Newman, defending Sprint Cup champion Kyle Busch? James Buescher won a Truck Series title. He got the checkered flag here in 2009. Back live at Daytona, just about time for the season opener in the ARCA Racing Series. 2 years ago in this event, it was all about driver 15. John West Townley only led 9 laps on that Saturday afternoon, but it was enough to get him back to the checkered flag in the top position. His only victory in ARCA Series competition. He starts 5th here today. His plan to run 17 races this season. Of course, he's going to compete full-time in the Camping World Truck Series, one of the drivers everybody is going to have to deal with in this afternoon's race. Starting a couple of positions in front of him, our Menards pole winner, and it goes to Cole Custer. We talked about him moments ago. He's the youngest ARCA pole winner here at Daytona. He delivered big time yesterday in group qualifying, trying to get his second career win in the ARCA Racing Series. He's already the youngest super speedway winner, picked up the checkered flag at Pocono Raceway 1 year ago. So the field full of youngsters trying to make a name for themselves. Plenty of veterans here trying to add their name to the long list of winners who can say they graced victory lane at Daytona International Speedway. We're just moments away from the green flag. Now we're going trackside to get the command to fire engines at Daytona.
Here to deliver the most famous words in motorsports, please welcome your Grand Marshal, Lucas Oil Series Director, Dan Robinson.
Drivers, start your engines!
You gotta love that sound. 40 ARCA Racing Series engines have come to life, and it's just about time to get it done here at Daytona. We look at our starting lineup, brought to you by Lucas Oil.
Combined age of our front row, 36 years. How about the first stock car race at the new Daytona Stadium?
Yeah, and Chase Briscoe, a young kid out of Mitchell, Indiana, looking to make a big splash here today. Not a lot of stock car experience.
5th race on pavement for Chase.
Saw Matt Kurziewski there, qualified 7th, driving for Ken Schrader. He's excited about 2016.
There's Greg Galding, a good qualifying effort also for Sarah Cornett Ching.
See Bobby Gerhart alongside Josh Williams, a Florida native. No doubt that 6-car one to watch today.
Another dirt track racer, Kevin Thomas, in one of the Cunningham Motorsports cars.
You mentioned Mark Thompson earlier, alongside Dylan Lupton in row 9. Row 10, the guy that was a rookie a year 2 years ago, Austin Wayne Self.
Shane Lee from just outside of Hickory, North Carolina.
Bo Lamastus so good late in 2016, looking to build on the momentum, and there's our 10-time champion, Frank Kimmel.
Brett Hudson had a 3rd place finish here last year. He will go back with Frank Kimmel for adjustments.
Brett Hudson, a kid out of Owensboro, Kentucky, as you said, so good here at Daytona 1 year ago.
Great to see Brad Smith back here. Last time he was on the racetrack, hard crash at Talladega. Good to see him back in the field.
It's great to look at this starting lineup, and you see so many youthful faces. Many of them have never had an opportunity to work in the draft, and then you see all the veterans, names that we're accustomed to seeing anytime you go racing in the ARCA Racing Series. Mentioned a couple of guys that we'll watch today, Frank Kimmel and Brett Hudson, no doubt drivers that will be a part of the equation this afternoon's race, but because of changes post-qualifying, they have to start at the reel.
Yeah, I talked to Frank earlier today, and I said it may not be a bad thing to go back there for the start of this thing.
When we come back, we'll be ready for the green flag. It's the season opener from Daytona International Speedway. Back live at Daytona, a couple of more pace laps, and we'll be set for the green flag in the ARCA Racing Series season opener. It is the Lucas Oil 200. And now our Scott Rookie of the Year candidates. Teammates from Cunningham Motorsports, both have been great. Whether you go back to testing last month or the last couple of days of practice, and they showed how good they are in qualifying yesterday. Chase Briscoe, we talked about him earlier, qualifying in the 3rd position, 21 years old. He's an open wheel sensation, much like Kevin Thomas Jr.
Yeah, both of these drivers with very limited pavement experience, but they're going to try to figure it out here. Been very, very solid in practice.
Kevin Thomas Jr. in 2013 won 7 USAC sprint car races. And look, as they were rolling off, the 77 of Chase Briscoe pulls off, maybe to adjust the steering wheel. That's a no-no in ARCA competition.
Yeah, that's a no-no in ARCA. Once you roll off pit road here, you're not allowed to stop, and they're going to put him to the back of the field here.
For more, let's send it downstairs and hear once again from Ray Dunlap.
Well, thank you, Adam. You know, when we look back at the history books, there are just 4 drivers that have ever come to Daytona and won and gone on to win the championship. Grant Enfinger did it a year ago, Andy Hillenberg, Ramo Stott, and Benny Parsons. But you know what? It's a 20-race season, and the bottom line is you got to have a good average finish. So let's look at our recent champions here in the ARCA Racing Series. One driver stands out on this list. Obviously, Chris Buescher had a 20th place finish at this race. But all those other drivers combined ended up with an average finish of 4.7. You don't have to come to Daytona and win the race to win the title, but if you get in a big wreck and finish last, it sure can be a pretty big hole to dig out of. Jim Trado?
And Ray, one thing to think about these teenagers in this race today, there are 3 drivers specifically that are trying to prove themselves. Splash and go, splash and move on to the next level. Cole Custer, our pole sitter. William Byron has to race this race to get approved to run Kyle Busch's truck this weekend at Daytona. Also, Austin Wayne South, although he has experience here in ARCA, he's also on assault for the first time in a full-time effort with his own team in the Truck Series. Keep in mind, I counted no less than 9 more drivers, along with Austin Wayne South and those youngsters I mentioned, as first-timers here at Daytona. Splash and go also means pit stops. These youngsters have never done this. This may be the most difficult pit road to come on and off of in fine fashion, with the tall gear leaving on these restarts. Everything's critical. These pit stops could determine the winner. If it's a teenager, they got to get it right here on pit road.
No doubt, Jim. The margin for error when you come to Daytona, very slim. And now we take a look at our onboards for today's race coverage.
Yeah,
Phil?
we're going to ride along with our 10-time champion, Frank Kimmel. Let's see if we can talk to Frank.
Get a little elation coming through there, you know.
Hey, Frank Kimmel. Phil Parsons up in the FS1 booth. You got a copy?
Got you, Phil. Sound good, bud.
Frank, you've won the championship 10 times. You've been to Daytona a bunch of times. You've never got to victory lane. You've got to go to the back to start this thing for some adjustments. What's the recipe to get up front and be there at the end?
It's a hell of a question, Phil. I wish I knew. It's going to be an exciting race. I hope not too exciting, but the guys have worked really hard. They put this deal together in about 3 weeks, so we're going to go out and get the very best finish we can get. You know, play it smart here, see what we can come up with. Looks like a couple of young guys made mistakes there and pulled off, so got some pretty good cars back here, so it could get exciting.
All right, buddy, appreciate it. Have a good show. Frank will drive the Ford onboard here.
We're also going to hang out with a 98 of Gus Dean, a 21-year-old out of Bluffton, South Carolina. He's got the Carrier Corporation on board, driving a Chevrolet here at Daytona.
We're going to ride along with a 3rd-place finisher from last year in points, Josh Williams. He carries the Musselman's Applesauce on board, and he starts from the 13th spot.
Sarah Cornett Ching is in the field today. 24-year-old out of British Columbia, rolls off in the 12th position. She's got the Bugband.net Chevrolet.
How about our winner from a couple years ago at Talladega, Tom Hessert? He moves over to Venturini Motorsports. He will drive the Florida Lottery Toyota, the General Tire onboard, and he will start from the 4th spot.
Half a lap before we go green. Great deal of anticipation building here. It's the first stock car race of 2016, and you look at those drivers that won championships a year ago in NASCAR. All of them have spent time in the ARCA Racing Series. Mentioned earlier, Kyle Busch won the season opener here at Daytona back in 2004. Of course, he won the Sprint Cup title a season ago. Chris Buescher, who claimed last year's Xfinity Series championship, won the 2012 ARCA title. And Eric Jones made big headlines right here in the ARCA ARCA Racing Series. Of course, he became the youngest ever Truck Series champion in November at Homestead Miami Speedway.
Yeah, and at one time he was the youngest ARCA Series winner ever. That's been eclipsed since then. Todd Gilliland now is the youngest ARCA winner. He won it just a couple days past his 15th birthday.
Coming off turn 4, take me inside the cockpit. What are these drivers feeling right now, Phil?
Got to make sure that thing's in second gear. Want to get a good restart. We've talked about all the inexperience. These guys want to make sure they get up through the gears the right way. They don't want to cause any issues right here on this start. Let's get this thing underway, get some laps going. These guys are going to want to get to that double yellow line and stay there early.
Mentioned Chase Briscoe, qualified third, dropped to the rear. So did Gray Gaulding. He's back there with Frank Kimmel and Brett Hudson. The front row, Cole Custer, William Byron, a couple of 18-year-olds. We are green at Daytona.
Look at John West Townley, that 05 tucked up underneath. Cole Custer trying to get that inside line moving.
Yeah, Townley moved up to the second row and Briscoe dropped to the rear after those infractions coming off the pit lane.
I talked to William Byron. He said, well, maybe the outside line will go early on. It's going to be the best time for him to be able to try to get out in front of Cole Custer and maybe move down to the double yellow line there.
Keep an eye on that 69. That's Will Kimmel. Led the way in final practice yesterday. That team actually lost a couple of cars in testing here. Spent the last month rebuilding that race car. Thursday for them, not a practice session, more of a test. Their true practice came yesterday. They've got it dialed in, and you can see he's solidly inside the top 10.
You see the inside line led by the black number 54 of Cole Custer has a slight advantage here as they enter turn number 1.
If you watch the ARCA Racing Series, you know you hear a lot about Venturini. And that team at Venturini Motorsports always seems to get it done. William Byron qualifying on the front row, and right behind him, Tom Hessert in that white 25. Last season driving the 77 for Cunningham. One of the big changes in the offseason. It's already paying off. He's right there at the front.
And as we mentioned, he's a former winner at Talladega, so he knows how to get it done on this type of racetrack.
He's pretty good on the short tracks, too. The won 3 of the last 6 at Salem. Also has a win at Iowa on his ARCA resume.
We can see that inside line has gained about a car. Oh, trouble already.
Through the tri-oval. 78 goes around. The 98, they're teammates. It's a big one at Daytona. It all started when the 78 of Cole Powell got turned sideways. Gus Dean had nowhere to go and under caution early here at the World Center of Racing.
This is exactly what these guys didn't want to do. They wanted to get some laps under their belt, just feel these things out here. A lot of damage to a lot of vehicles. How about Bobby Gerhart?
8 wins here at Daytona. On 2 different occasions, he's won 3 in a row. See Terry Jones from Canada in the 30. Got a little bit of damage. Austin Wayne Self in the 33. He was a runner-up a year ago.
There's Mark Thompson. We talked about Mark Thompson with an opportunity maybe to become the oldest winner. He has some damage.
And now the red flag has been displayed at Daytona, just 3 laps in.
Looks like Austin Wayne Self running across the racetrack. We're going to stop the field over on the backstretch to give the track workers time to clean this mess up.
Yeah, they stopped him right over at the entrance of turn 3. Some of the biggest names, no doubt some pre-race favorites for this race involved in the crash. There's the 59, Jairo Avila, involved in the accident.
Great to see him get out of that car. That's one of the 4 cars from Carlos Lira.
There's Gus Dean.
And one of the Mason Mitchell Motorsports entries.
Yeah, our Carrier Corporation on board, giving us so many good pictures prior to today's race. We did not want to see it, giving us the shot of him climbing out prematurely, but unfortunately, tough luck for the South Carolina native, and there's his teammate, Cole Powell, out of Ontario.
Yeah, Cole had a 3rd place finish last year at Talladega. He finished 20th here. See Shane Lee, the Lee boy car.
Yeah, one of our rookies.
One of our rookies with quite a bit of damage. Watch about 3 or 4 lines back. Did The 78 definitely moved to the inside. Don't know if he had any help. Maybe it turned him sideways right into his teammate, the 98 of Gus Dean, that pushed him back up the racetrack right in front of the pack.
Look at Kevin Thomas Jr. in that 22, gets minimal damage, middle of your screen. This is a kid that had never raced on a facility bigger than a half-mile prior to today, and that was a pretty nice save by him.
You can't tell from that angle whether the 78 got a little bit of contact that turned him around down into the inside line where he collected his teammate, Gus Dean. See all these drivers, that you see all that smoke. It's way worse from racetrack level.
I think about Greg Gaulding, Frank Kimmel, some of those drivers. Brett Hudson would have started right in the middle of the pack, probably been collected, dropped to the rear, and I don't think any of them got any damage.
Boy, it almost looked like there might have been a little bit of contact right there to turn that 78 sideways. If there would have been an opening down to the inside, he probably would have got away with it, but not this early in the race.
On board
no
with
openings.
Gus Dean. That's Cole Powell on the outside.
Look at the rear of that car. Look how close the 83 is. Derek Lancaster. Definitely contact from behind that sent him down across the racetrack.
That's unfortunate because those cars have been fast, not only this weekend, but were really good when we tested here in January. See what it looked like from the view of Sarah Cornett-Ching on board here.
Dylan looked in the 82 to her inside. You see, just blipped the throttle for just a second, and that quickly she was by the incident. See her waving out the window to the cars behind her.
And look at all the cars way back behind them that were able to avoid the accident because they were not up right in the middle of the draft. Unofficially, there were 9 cars involved in an accident 3 laps in here at Daytona. The Lucas Oil 200 for the ARCA Racing Series under the red flag. Working lap 2, and we had a big crash coming into the tri-oval. 9 cars involved. Some of them drivers that we felt like had a great shot to go to victory lane here today.
Yeah, there certainly were. Here's another look at it. See, there was a little bit of contact from behind to the 78 of Cole Powell. It turned him to the inside into his teammate, the 98 of Gus Dean, but it sent him back up the racetrack right in the middle of this heavy side-by-side pack here.
Yeah, that bright yellow Menards car out of the Ken Schrader stables, the 52 of Matt Kurziewski. Watch him, middle of your screen, and the job that he does getting through the crash and encountering no contact.
Yeah, it's amazing. We talk about the fact that there are 9 cars involved in this, but there's going to be at least 9 cars that probably should have been involved in this and somehow missed it.
When you come to Daytona, you'd much rather at times be lucky than good, and there are a handful of drivers that fit that category, and on board there with Sarah Cornett-Ching, who was able to dodge an early bullet. This is Gus Dean. That's his teammate in the 78 outside Cole Powell.
You see the contact right there by Derek Lancaster. And it sends him right back up. There's absolutely nowhere for any of those drivers to go. He's along for the ride right now. He's going to let go of the steering wheel and just grab hold of his headrest.
Well, and it happens at the worst time. Early in a run, when the pack is as tight together as they will be all afternoon.
You saw the hands on the 78 trying to save that car after the bump. Unfortunately, couldn't do it.
Cole Powell talked about how fast those Mason Mitchell Motorsports machines were during testing. Backed it up here, qualified up front. He started in the 6th position.
Bo LeMastus does a nice job getting by as well. You mentioned the 52 of Matt Krzyzewski.
So we look at the drivers that were involved in our lap 2 crash. Shane Lee having his Wintron machine returned to the garage. There's Cole Powell.
Yeah, that's going to be terminal damage to that 78 car of Cole Powell.
And I did have Kevin Thomas there. If you're a Kevin Thomas Jr. fan, he got damage. Appeared to be minimal. Cunningham Motorsports, a lot of good guys should be able to get that thing back on track. The fun is just beginning here at Daytona International Speedway tonight. The green flag goes in the air for some of the best drivers in all the world. 25 going after the big prize in the sprint Unlimited, no points on the line, just a big trophy. You can see it 8 Eastern time on Fox.
And that'll be a wild one.
It'll be good. And then on Fox tomorrow at 1, Daytona 500 qualifying, when we will set the front row for the great American race. The red flag has been lifted, 10 minutes 55 seconds, so we are back under caution here in the season opener for the ARCA Racing Series. And anytime you come to Daytona, a lot of anticipation, a lot of excitement, and for good reason in the ARCA garage. General Tire coming on board. This is a big thing for everybody.
It certainly is, and it's going to be good for the racetracks, for the series, for the competitors. Great to have a big company like Continental General Tire coming in here, and all the talk in the garage here is how excited they are to have General in here. And really going to do a lot for this sport here. They're going to sponsor the Super Speedway Challenge. They're going to divide up 35 grand among the top 10 teams, keep competing in all the Super Speedway races. Matt Krzyzewski won that challenge last year.
They're putting their name on 8 races throughout the season, nearly half of the events that we have on the ARCA Racing Series schedule, and it's good to see. Happy to have them on board, and a nice partner in the sport for ARCA and all of us here at FS1. So we saw Cole Powell take his car back to the ARCA garage. The 22, that would be Kevin Thomas Jr., who got limited damage, brings his car down the pit lane, started 16th, and he was just wrong place, wrong time, like so many others. And actually, if you go back and really analyze what he was able to do, a great save to avoid putting his car in the garage, because it could have been really bad.
Yeah, he has a little bit of damage to the front of that 22 car, and you see the damage to that right rear corner.
Bobby Gerhart not so fortunate, Ray.
And Adam, he has won 8 times here at Daytona in 5 different cars. But Bobby, you told me Tiger was your absolute favorite. How's the race car?
Absolutely. Looks like it's not in good shape right now. You know, I've not been a real big fan of the format, and I think right there shows that I have yet to see it on tape. But you know, the format the way it is, you're really not in control of where you're going to start. Other people can dictate that by just a misalignment of the draft in a random situation. Very unfortunate, but what it does, it puts cars in a position where maybe there could be a little bit of contact when, in other words, if it was a single car deal, it wouldn't be that way. But just wrong place at the right time. I'd like to thank Lucas Oil for everything they do for us. You know, a tough one. There's no question about it, but a great car.
He's had a great run here at this track, out very early, but Bobby Gerhart will have a couple more shots at Daytona. He'll be in the Xfinity and Camping World Truck Series races next week.
Yeah, guys, what he's talking about is they had a group qualifying session yesterday. They put 5 cars together, and it was a little bit random as how they put the cars together, and that's what Bobby was talking about. He didn't get what he considered a fast group, so he didn't have a very good qualifying time, where there were some other maybe slower cars, if they would have run by themselves, that got with a fast group, started up front. So that's what Bobby was talking about. A little bit unsure about the format, but as Ray mentioned, we'll see him next week in both the truck and the Xfinity Series.
Yeah, and when Ray talked to Bobby prior to the race, talked about the opportunity to become the oldest winner ever at Daytona in ARCA competition. Not going to happen for him today, and likely not for Mark Thompson either, who got damage in the accident. Mark, a 64-year-old that out of Georgia that has been so good when he comes over and competes in the ARCA Racing Series. And we continue to follow the progress of Kevin Thomas Jr., the rookie out of the Cunningham Motorsports stables. He's been down pit road a couple of different times. They do a really nice job. When you go up and down the pit lane, Cunningham very buttoned up in the way they go about their business. And it looks like they've about got this car back where it's going to be able to stay in the draft and compete.
Yeah, they really do. And they do such a great job with young drivers, too. 5 of our last 7 Rookie of the Years have come out of Cunningham Motorsports, so they know what they're doing. Paul Andrews is a leader over there. He's a former Cup winning crew chief, championship winning crew chief with Alan Kawicki back in the day. So they do a really nice job, and they're going to get that 22 car patched back up, and Kevin's going to have a shot at a good finish here.
Man, Paul's one of those guys that'll always shoot you straight, tell you exactly how it is. And you and I talked to him last couple of days in the garage. He said, we've got 2 really good young drivers, Kevin Briscoe being the other one, and or Chase Briscoe rather being the other one. I think there's a lot of excitement right now for the group at Cunningham Motorsports. So pit road was not officially open, but because of the extensive damage, Kevin Thomas Jr. taking the opportunity to come down. It will be open this time, only 5 laps in, a little bit early when you start talking about the strategy of this one, Phil?
I think it's early because these guys can go about 50 or 55 laps. If they had run about 15 laps, then they say, well, let's buy get a little bit of insurance fuel so we can prolong our pit stop. But I think it's a little bit too early. If you're up front, let's stay up front.
I said Mark Thompson had quite a bit of damage. Doesn't look too bad right now. He's coming your way, Jim.
and it's on the left side of the car, guys. He got nicked in the left rear. We see the right side wheels actually have the General Tire logo scraped off them. They're more worried about the left rear fender where it meets up with the wheel. There was damage we saw on the track under caution of the left rear bumper. Veteran crew chief Jeff McClure, former driver in this series, said, don't worry about the bumper, worry about my fender and the quarter panel. Jeff McClure lives, eats, and sleeps his race cars, especially when it comes to how fine-tuned they can be for super speedway racing here at Daytona. So that back bumper is secondary. Primary, get my left rear clear of what could be an issue. They also changed left side General Tires as well.
Well, Jim, I talked about how good Cunningham Motorsports is when it comes to adverse situations. Bill Venturini and his group, great as well, and that's why they're up front so often. Right now, the race leader, Cole Custer, here in the season opener at the World Center of Racing. It's hard to win at Daytona, period, much less 2 years in a row. But the guy that won this championship last season was able to pull it off, Grant Enfinger.
Yeah, won it with 2 different teams. That was Howard Bixman's car that he won back in 2014 with. Moved over mid-year to Gallagher Motorsports, almost won the championship in 14. Came back here, won the first 3 races again last year, including right here at Daytona, and went on to win the championship.
Those first 3 races at 3 totally different types of racetracks. And, well, I'll tell you what, Grant Enfinger moving on up, going to be a part of the Camping World Truck Series in 2016. Action begins on track Thursday with the opening practice at 1:30 here on FS1.
And we're going to have a bunch of stuff on the air on Friday. See qualifying at 4:30, our setup at 7 o'clock, and then the 250 from here at Daytona at 7:30.
We love days like today. Next weekend even better. Competing every day on track. You can watch it all unfold. FS1, Fox. We're happy to have you along for the ride. Green flag back in the air as we complete lap 7. Cole Custer inside, and outside of him is John West Townley.
See, John West was on the inside line right before that accident, had the 2nd spot. Now William Byron, who was stuck on the outside, is down on the inside in the 3rd spot right now. Going to try to stick with Cole Custer there.
How long does it take to get these things wound out before you're at full song after a restart?
I'd say probably a lap and a half or so. These engines put out about 400 horsepower in their restricted state right here. They're about 700 horsepower when we go just about anywhere else besides here in Talladega.
See all that dust from the speedy dry after they cleaned up the incident? That distracting for a driver with the sun and everything?
No, not at all.
I'm trying to build drama. You're not helping out, Phil.
These guys are used to that. Some of these guys are used to dirt. Now, they see dirt all the time.
They got tear-offs on their visor when they're competing.
See, John West is trying to keep that outside line tied up next to that inside line so he doesn't lose too much ground. He's about a car length behind our leader Cole Custer right now, side by side with the 9 of William Byron.
These young guys want to win this race, but early I've got to believe they're going to school a little bit, trying to learn everything they can because they have never, ever been out there and done it for real. They've been in the draft and practice and the test, but never in this situation.
I was talking to Cole Custer's dad, Joe, and he says as we watch Matt Krzyzewski, that yellow number 52 car go up through the middle, he said if he sits on the pole and leads every lap, he won't learn much. He won't have to pass anybody. I said, believe me, he's going to learn a bunch.
That's a good way to make your debut at Daytona, though, isn't it? Go out front, lead every lap. Of course, in case you hadn't been following it, Cole Custer, limited schedule last couple of years in the Camping World Truck Series. Turned 18 last month. Now he's old enough to run all the races, will compete full-time in 2016, driving for Dale Earnhardt Jr. over at Junior Motorsports, on board with Tom Hessert, 4th right now, down on that inside lane. And he's one of the drivers you have to have confidence in. Good equipment, a lot of great experience.
Yeah, winner at Talladega. I'm sure that's very comforting for William Byron to look in his mirror and see his teammate Tom Hessert back there in that 25 car. Saw John West Townley trying to side draft a little bit to keep from losing some ground. You see him move over towards that white car of Tom Hessert. You see he's lost about a car length and a half on this last lap here. See Will Kimmel, that 69 black Chevrolet, right behind John West Townley.
Mentioned John West Townley's win here a couple of years ago in the ARCA Racing Series. Did it back in 2013, actually. He also was very impressive in the draft at Talladega in the Camping World Truck Series in October. A kid that's well versed when you talk about this style of racing.
Yeah, winner in the Truck Series last year at Las Vegas for his first career win.
Matt Kurziewski about 5th in line, that top row. Nearly involved in the crash that we had at lap 2. Right behind him, 10-time champion Frank Kimball. With a new team this season, said it's going to be a year when a little bit of a swan song year for him. Hasn't announced his retirement by any stretch of the imagination, but knows that he's winding down in the years. In fact, if you read the release before the season, said Frank would drive it this year, opening the door for Frank Kimball Jr. to drive it in 2017.
Yeah, and Frankie's up there on the roof right now, spotting for his dad.
How about the race leader? So far, so good for Cole Custer, Ray.
Well, let's talk about the spotters, because I have to tell you, a lot of drivers out there with not much experience, but when you look down the list of spotters, it's almost like this is a Sprint Cup Series race. Cole Custer is hearing the voice of Eddie DeHaan, and when you listen to the radio down here, you hear guys like Tony Hirschman and Bob Jeffries. You'll hear Andy Houston on the radio and Mark Gregory, a whole bunch of guys that have a lot of help for these young drivers, giving them information, not just right now in the race, but also through practice and in qualifying. Jim Trado?
And Ray, to further your point, William Byron sitting second at Liberty University Toyota. He has Mike Herman on his radio from up top. He is the crew chief for Ricky Stenhouse. He's got a lot of experience, not only as a short track racer, but can relate to this young man and the importance of getting in the right line, being patient. There's a lot of discussion during the caution flag about where William needs to be. This kid's a student of the sport, but what great professors these teams have, these young drivers paired with veteran spotters up on the roof.
You look at William Byron, and he has handled every progression on the racing ladder. Won the K&N East Championship, a couple of ARCA races, nearly won at Raceway Park in Indianapolis, qualified on the pole at Kentucky last fall. Everywhere he's gone, he has shown signs of his talent, doing it again here today, and I think he's going to be someone we're talking about deep into the year over at Kyle Busch Motorsports in the Truck Series.
Good view of Josh Williams right there. The Musselman's onboard Ford. You see he's running in the 7th spot. Josh probably does more with less than about anybody in this field here. Does a lot of the work himself. Not at real high budget. Along with Will Kimmel, we caught a glimpse of Will just a moment ago. Same situation for Will and his dad, Bill.
Sarah Cornett Ching kind of going the opposite direction of William Byron. She's going to run full-time K&N this year with a handful of ARCA races. She really has made a nice splash since coming down from Canada a year ago.
Yeah, she certainly. She had several top 10 finishes in the series last year in her first full year.
Now I'm looking at this view on board with Frank Kimmel. And that sun coming into the tri-oval, a little bit of a problem right now.
Yeah, it certainly is. It can be really bad here until you get to a certain point where the grandstands will block that. So that's all the more reason for your spotter to be on top of things. And the driver may tell the spotter, hey, from the time I come off turn 4 till I enter the tri-oval, I really can't see anything. So pay extra attention.
Looks like these guys are starting to get a little bit antsy. A lot of movement in the draft as they snake down the back straightaway and over into turn 3.
You know, it's great to stay on the bottom, stay in that bottom line like Cole Custer is, William Byron, Tom Hessert. But you want to be able, if you get caught behind someone, you want to be able to know what you can do to make your way around somebody. I don't think we haven't seen a third line yet. I don't know necessarily that we will see a third line here, but the outside line is doing a pretty good job, led by John West Townley and that black 05 of staying up with these guys.
There is a fine line, though, when you talk about that balance of patience and aggression. And I'm not sure that anybody ever really finds it. Sometimes it just kind of comes to you. But that is a tough chore for a driver in a race like this, I've got to believe.
Yeah, we're on lap 16 right now. Way early to show any aggression here. As you see John West Townley with a good push right there from Will Kimmel. Pulls up alongside the 55 of Byron. John West is really doing a nice job with some help of keeping that outside line in touch with the front of this pack.
You mentioned Josh Williams a moment ago, starting to get antsy in that outside lane. He's third in line up top. You're on board with him here. It's the Musselman's applesauce on board.
And it looks pretty simple just to stay in line, but these cars move around. They buff it around quite a bit, especially in the draft here. So these guys aren't just holding that steering wheel in one place. They have to drive these things. You see him bouncing around there. You see, ideally they would just stay next to that double yellow line. You see Cole Custer's going to have to do something with this lap car. Well, soon to be lap car Mark Thompson now, the 66, who lost our draft.
Yeah, he put a lot of time in on pit road after being involved in that opening accident lap 2, and the field is catching him. He slides down to the double yellow line, and the pack will slide high and go around him. Anxious times in the draft here at Daytona.
See how close the 55 of Byron and the 05 got of John West Townley. Got to make sure you give Mark Thompson some room down there. There's some contact. They're not going to. Are they going to survive this?
They are not. We got one in the wall. Second caution of the day. And among those involved, the 83 of Derek Lancaster got a piece of the action. Mark Thompson, and look at that. Matt Kurziewski thought that was him in that outside lane.
It really causes anxious moments when you lap a car like that. You have to give that guy room down there. You want to stay tucked up with a car in front of you, and you want to stay pretty close to that inside. They didn't give Mark enough room, it didn't look like, and this is the result.
Really the first time we had seen cars drift up to that third lane. You just talked about it. They've not used it. They were forced to because of the slower vehicle, Mark Thompson, and it just didn't work out into turn one.
See, all these guys want to try to get down as low as they can. The 83 of Lancaster made contact with the 66 of Thompson, and Mark tried his best to save that car, but had to use a little bit more racetrack to do it. See, they've already made a little bit of contact. You see Dylan Lumpkin, somehow he's going to avoid that. He was right smack in the middle of that in the 82 car, and somehow was able to get around those guys.
So Mark Thompson was 3 laps down. They tried to get around him. It didn't work out. And as you can see, Matt Kurziewski among those that have climbed from their vehicles after our second caution of the day. Great time to be a race fan. We've been at it all day long here from Daytona International Speedway, and the fun continues on Fox tonight. It's the Sprint Unlimited 25 of NASCAR's best going at it in the unofficial season opener. We'll see you 8 p.m. Eastern on your local Fox affiliate. Following the ARCA action here today, a special 2-hour edition of Race Day on FS1 to get you ready. Kenny Wallace talking with Kevin Harvick, and a piece on Chris Osborne, the spotter for Matt Kenseth, who was injured in a terrible accident. He and his family in the offseason will update his progress and get you ready for what will be a fun night here at Daytona. Under caution for the second time, a 3-car crash over in turns 1 and 2. We're 20 laps in. This time we likely will see some takers coming down the pit lane.
Yeah, I think so. These guys could actually even quite possibly stretch it from here. Doesn't look like everybody's coming, but William Byron is going to lead this group down pit road.
Yeah, our leader stayed out, but William Byron is going to make his first stop of the afternoon. Plenty of others coming behind him, Ray.
I had just asked the leader, Cole Custer's crew chief, Matt Weber, what are you going to do? He said, I can probably go to 54. So we want to stay out and keep that track position. Another group of guys, though, coming down pit road. So let's go to the other end and check in with Jim Trado.
William Byron's car is in, Ray. They're going to go fuel only. They talked about tires and an adjustment. They're going to pack it full of fuel. Stuck at Sunoco can setting. They're going to hit it again until it comes out, and they know it's full. Take the maximum gallons of fuel in the car. Byron down and away. Easy in, easy out. Was the signal? The youngster listened.
Yeah, don't want to make any mistakes on pit road. I was talking to William yesterday, so you got to be careful. Even under caution, you come in and don't slide those tires if your guys are planning on only putting fuel in it. You don't want to have to force them to change tires because you slid them and flat spot them. He did a great job right there, it looked like.
You and I said it today. You may not win this race on pit road, but very easily someone could lose it here today because so many guys with that inexperience. Here's the reason we're under caution for the second time today. Mark Thompson, black 66, 3 laps down. They were going around him. Derek Lancaster getting the bad end of it. Matt Kurziewski also getting plenty of damage when he hit the outside wall. Under caution, 20 laps in the Lucas Oil 200 on FS1. This late Saturday afternoon, live from Daytona International Speedway with Phil Parsons. I'm Adam Alexander. Live coverage on FS1 of the season opening race for the ARCA Racing Series. It is the Lucas Oil 200. Under caution for the second time today, Cole Custer, an 18-year-old out of California, started on the pole. He has led all 21 laps. He and 8 other drivers at the front of the field elected to stay out under this caution. The first driver that pitted to return to the racetrack would be Will Kimmel. He'll restart in the 9th position.
Yeah, I really like coming to pit road there because you're almost halfway through a fuel run. You had the pace laps warm up, and then about 20 laps under green. So I really like the fact that you can extend your pit window, and you have to pit in the ARCA Racing Series before lap 70. So you can't stretch it and think, okay, I'm going to get good enough fuel mileage with all the caution laps. You're going to have to come in. So all those drivers you mentioned that stayed out will have to come to pit road here, and Will Kimmel, William Byron, those other guys that came to pit road might even could possibly save some fuel on this caution, maybe get another caution and try to make it all the way from here, because they can go about 50-55 laps, and they will have to go about 59 from when they stopped a few moments ago.
What's going on with Chase Briscoe, Jim?
He's one of the teams that stayed out. This youngster in his first ever race here at Daytona has veteran crew chief Chad Bryant on the pit box. They did a discussion. They stayed out. This Scott rookie, though, has been told he'll be 15 laps short on fuel. There is a mandatory rule in the ARCA Racing Series presented by Menards. The teams must pit within 10 laps of the finish. So they're trying to calculate it, trying to get that fuel extended. So maybe it is a splash and go at the very last moment if this goes green from here to the end. Let's check in with Ray.
Well, Jim, Tommy Prater is on pit road right now. He just got a wedge adjustment on the left side, and they filled that race car up with fuel. Talking it over with his dad and crew chief Tommy Sr., and he said, I believe we can make it from here.
Yeah, that's one of the teams that felt pretty good about their car yesterday, Ray. Qualified in the 20th position, and Thomas Prater, such a great young kid out of Alabama. His father, Tommy, one of the great personalities in the ARCA Series garage. You hope for great success for them today. That's a team that works really hard and should pay off, too. A couple of those drivers that stayed out here under this, our second caution of the day, were drivers that pitted under our first at lap 6. Brian Dawsat and also Brett Hudson. Hudson, a driver that had to start at the rear after some unapproved changes. Keep an eye on them when we get back under the green flag. And we'll put the green flag out when we return to Daytona. On a Saturday from Daytona, it's the Lucas Oil 200 for the ARCA Racing Series. Cole Custer is the race leader. John West Townley is second. Tom Hessert is third. Josh Williams will restart here in the 4th position. Sean Corr is 4th, and completing the top 5. Excuse me. Tom Hessert is in the 3rd spot. Josh Williams is 4th, and Sean Corr going to restart in the 5th position.
See John West Townley right down at the 05 car. Let's see if we can talk to John West. Hey, John West, Phil Parsons up in the FS1 booth. You got a copy?
I do.
That Zaxby's Chevrolet looks pretty good out there. Now, why did you guys decide to stay out? We had run about 20 laps. All but a handful of you guys came to pit road.
Well, I mean, we personally feel it's a little too early right now. I think for the way things are going, to be knock on wood, I think we should get another caution pretty soon. I mean, I think we got a car that's strong enough right now to win. I mean, assuming everything goes right. So hopefully we'll keep this Zaxby's Chevrolet up here, and maybe we'll see on victory lane.
It looked like you were able to keep that outside line up with those guys up front there on the inside line, so that's got to bode well for later on.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it side drives really well, and also, I mean, if I can get a little bump from the guy behind me, propels, keeps this momentum for a good while too. So those are good components to have in our situation.
All right, buddy, doing a great job. Keep it up.
Thanks, Phil.
What's going on, Jim?
Well, guys, you know what? John West Townley didn't tell you what he told his crew chief. He said, this car is running 150. That's way too cool. So Kevin Reed, the crew chief, came down from the pit box and laid out 2 pieces of duct tape. Those pieces were measured, calculated, because that's the size of the patch he wants to put on the nose of that 05 Zaxby Chevy when his driver comes down pit road. Phil, you know better than anybody. If you can put more tape on that nose, man, there's more air flying by, and that increases the speed.
Oh, yeah, it just lowers that drag, and drag really computes into speed. So that'll be great. That'll help that car when they put a little tape on it.
Mentioned earlier that Brian Dawsat was going to restart inside the top 10, elected not to come down with the race leaders when the caution came out. He since has made his pit stop. He will restart outside the top 25. First of those drivers that came down pit road and returned to the track was Will Kimmel. He will restart 7th, and Brett Hudson right in front of him in the 6th position. Last made a pit stop at lap 6. He also stayed on the racetrack.
See Tom Hessert coming down pit road here now. Guys, we're getting in our pit window, Jim. They're coming towards pit road.
One young driver we just talked about, Chase Briscoe, was told, hey, come on down now. We want to get that car fueled up. So his crew chief, Chad Bryant, is making the call as you see a half a dozen cars or so, including this Cunningham Dodge, coming down pit road. This car has 2 wins under its belt in the last couple of years for Cunningham. This young driver's doing a great job trying to make it a three-peat for them on super speedways, right?
No tire change and no adjustments for Tom Hessert in car number 25, but they did pack it full of fuel. He had to hold up just a few seconds as he got out of the pit box, but they believe now their window is opened up.
When you talk to those in the garage, what's going on here? Problems for William Byron.
He stalled his car. They will not allow him to push him past the outline, so they're going to have to. Now he's got to run. He's going to lose a few car lengths and a little bit of track position, but at least that was under caution, Jim.
One thing to remember, guys, the first pit stall in this race is pit stall 4. They give them, I believe, up to 3 pit stalls. Yes, they picked pit stall 1 officially, but that was 4.5 pit stalls, including past the stop and go sign. That will cost this team. They'll have to at least do a pass through. They may come down and top it off again.
You know, guys, I think we see over 90% of the time the pole sitter will pick that first pit stall. Cole Custer did not pick that pit stall, and we talked to his guys, and he said this is such a long pit road that we didn't want him to have to go all the way down pit road and try to maintain that speed. You see the 55 pushing. Williams stalled that car. We knew he had enough fuel because he'd already made a pit stop.
Well, the ARCA official was there with the stop paddle. He absolutely was not going to let him get by. Going to go green this time by. Lengthy caution, our second of the afternoon. On the restart, it'll be Cole Custer, who's led every lap, all 25 so far, alongside John West Townley. Then it's Josh Williams, Sean Corr, Brett Hudson, and Will Kimmel, the front 3 rows.
I really think some of those guys that just pitted may be able to stretch this all the way to the end, or just barely maybe outside their pit window.
I had crew chiefs tell me, caution comes at 23. I feel good about going from there, and we're north of 25.
Absolutely.
Lap 26 complete as we go back green.
Good to see that 48 car of James Hilton, owned number 48 of Sean Corr, running up there in the top 5.
Look right behind him. It's a family reunion. Will Kimmel in the 69 and Uncle Frank right behind him.
We've seen that uncle and nephew run nose to tail and side by side a lot over the years. They work together extremely well.
Getting a little antsy on the restart. Sean Corr sliding down to the inside lane.
Some sort of an issue for Josh Williams in the 6 car. You see him down there on the apron of the racetrack. He was running up in the top 5 on this restart.
Had a fast car all weekend long. He's one of those drivers yet to make a pit stop. Was 3rd when the green flag went back in the air. Could it be a tire issue or something? Maybe got over some debris?
Sounds like the car's still running. You see him grab 2nd gear, 3rd gear as he gets ready to come to pit road 2nd gear.
So here's the deal. He hadn't pitted yet. He's going to need fuel. He can go the distance from here. He needs to get his fuel, get back on track, and hope we get a caution before the draft catches up to him.
Yeah, I think he's probably going to lose a lap, Jim, while he comes to pit road. Is that a right rear tire down on that car?
They want to change all 4 tires. That was an issue on the restart. Josh Williams ran over something. His crew chief called him in. His spotter, TJ Majors, talked him through getting down all the way below that yellow line and make sure all 4 tires, it's a right rear flatten out on the Musselman's Big Cup number 6 machine.
He sits idle on the pit lane, and here comes the draft through the tri-oval. He is going to lose a lap. And by the way, that last time around, it was led by John West Townley. First time today, someone other than our pole sitter, Cole Custer, had been out front. Cole Custer led that last cycle. 8/1000ths of a second, the difference.
Yeah, John West is really doing a nice job keeping that outside line. You see the outside line is tucked up a little bit better than the inside line. It looks like the 48 of Sean Corr isn't able to stay with Cole Custer as tight as the outside line is.
Great to see Frank Kimmel 3rd in line, that yellow and blue machine outside lane, the 46. This deal came together late.
See, the sun's still an issue as they exit turn 4, as they get almost all the way to the tri-oval there.
On board there with Sarah Cornette Ching, who's fighting the sun like everybody else. Tom Hessert starting to think about a 3rd lane. Came to pit road, got his service, restarted outside the top 15. Right now, the driver that has won 5 times in his career scored 14th in his debut at Venturini.
Got a little bit of help up there with him. Looks like the 77 of Chase Briscoe up there with Tom Hessert.
What's the latest on Josh Williams, Jim?
Crew Chief Danny Johnson was brought in now. They're looking at each and every tire. They're measuring the tire pressures of both the inner liner on the general tire and the outer tire pressure. Now he believes the left front tire equalized on the number 6. That could be a very small pinhole leak that made the tire pressures similar. The outside and the inner tire, the inner liner, that caused the vibration that brought Josh Williams down pit road.
And that driver out of Port Charlotte, Florida, qualified up front. Right now, 1 lap down, being scored in the 28th position is Josh Williams. And just when you thought on this restart that outside lane was going to start to make some progress, John West Townley led a lap. Cole Custer has settled in once again.
See how tight that outside line is. You see John West pull over a little bit to side draft, and look how it pushed him out in front of Cole Custer for the moment.
Haven't mentioned Gray Galding's name a lot today. Youngster out of Virginia, 18 years old, earlier this week. 7th right now in his first trip to Daytona.
Yeah, doing a real nice job here. Tom Hessert's made up a little bit of ground on that outside. You see William Byron, that blue number 55, has joined Chase Briscoe and Tom Hessert on the outside line.
You know, if you're going to try to make it work, now's the time. We're not even halfway through this race. Go out and see if you can make it work. On board with him here.
See Tom Hessert, he's going to jump to the outside again, move around the 2 of Sarah Cornett-Ching. See Gray Galding, the 38 on the inside. That's Brett Hudson, the 15. Remember, both of those guys started all the way back at the back for the start of this race.
How about this view for Sarah Cornett-Ching? Got him inside, got him outside. Concentration at a premium when you come to this place.
And you have to deal with that sun as well. You see Thomas Prater, that 9, that black and white car. See him get a little bit loose there as they exited turn 4.
John West Townley starting to look really good in what has become the middle lane.
Right now, if that 69 of Will Kimmel would come up and bump John West just a little bit, it would probably shoot him out in front of Cole Custer, but it may not leave any room for Will Kimmel.
Saw Brandon Lynn. Started 33rd, has found his way to the front, dodging the early problems we've had in this race.
Remember now, a lot of these guys are on the same tires they started with. Even the cars that came to pit road just put fuel only. So we've got over 30 laps on these general tires, and these guys still running a pretty good pace right out here.
The separation last time around at the front, 13/1000ths of a second. Cole Custer led that trip around. He's led 31 of our first 33 laps today after starting on the pole. If you're just joining us late on this Saturday afternoon, good to have you along. 2 cautions early. One of the drivers taken out, Bobby Gerhart, an 8-time winner at Daytona. Austin Wayne Self, who was a runner-up last year in this series, going full-time in the Camping World Truck Series in 2016.
That middle line looks a little bit dicey there. You see the 9 of Thomas Prater. There's a 43 car of John Ferrier right behind Thomas Prater. They're losing a little bit of ground. That's allowing that outside line, that 3rd lane led by Tom Hessert, to gain a little bit of ground.
How about 4 drivers inside the top 10 have turned 18 years of age in the last 6 months.
Unbelievable youth movement here in this series and here at Daytona.
And then you got Bo Lamastus driving that 42 car, 53 years of age, started 23rd. He's looking for a win today. So strong at the end of 2016, and he's right there in the lead draft doing exactly what he needs to do.
Great job by the bugband.net car for Sarah Cornett-Ching, really doing a super job here running up in the top 10. Had a decent qualifying effort just outside the top 10. Just kept her nose clean and really doing a nice job running up with these right behind Frank Kimmel. How about, why don't you just follow a 10-time champion?
But I'm going to tell you this, Frank Kimmel, if anybody understands how to manage a day at Daytona, it's Frank. But I can't wait to see him at the end, because this could be his last, and he's never won here. This is one of the crown jewels he'd love to cross off the to-do list. Ray?
Adam, we talked about Frank starting in the back. They found out that the engine had actually sunk down about 1/4 of an inch, and that changed the angle of the drive shaft. Frank could hear it when he was riding on the racetrack, so they pulled out the drive shaft, and he said it was a really lucky break. They found out that they had the wrong kind of spline on the end of the drive shaft, so they replaced it, and he said it has absolutely made a huge difference. The car can pull up whenever he wants to. Right now he's just biding his time, riding right there in the top 6 positions. But remember, these guys are all starting to talk about fuel mileage and where they're going to be and when they need to pit, and they really hope that everyone behind them gives them a little chance to get down to the inside. Right now, Kimmel hung on the high line.
You know, Adam, if we go green for a long time here, these guys that didn't pit, they have to pit by lap number 70. They're going to be out of fuel before that anyway.
Yeah, they would certainly have to make a green flag pit stop somewhere probably around lap 60 when you factor in the caution laps we've had so far today.
Another dicey moment as they try to go by these lap cars. Most of the field, most of the lead pack has made it around there this time.
And that's starting to loosen up this draft a little bit. It had been so tight, really, on each run we had had today. See if these lap vehicles that are happen to be yielded to by the lead draft could break things up just a bit. Everybody handling it well.
Some of these guys that came to pit road, like William Byron, Tom Hessert, they may be in the driver's seat if this race goes green here for an extended period of time.
When you talk to John West Townley, he said the reason they chose not to come, feel like we're going to get more cautions. And history would suggest middle stages this race, we will get a yellow flag or two. But right now, everybody minding their P's and Q's, staying out of trouble. And again, on a couple of different occasions, have been able to avoid a slower lap vehicle that could have broken up the draft. Cole Custer out front here at Daytona. He's led 36 of 38 laps in the Lucas Oil 200. Just past halfway, it's the Lucas Oil 200 at Daytona International Speedway for the ARCA Racing Series. So far, it's been the Cole Custer Show, youngest winner in ARCA Series Super Speedway history last year at Pocono, trying to duplicate that feat here at Daytona. He has led 39 of 41 laps. As I said, we are just past halfway.
And you talk about it being a Cole Custer show, and it has. Has he had more than a car length lead since we started this race?
The last handful of laps, no more than 15 1/1000ths of a second on any given lap. Let's hear from Jim Trado.
Well, you got fast cars at the front of the field that have yet to pit. What do the crew chiefs do? They got smart about it. Matt Weber's the crew chief for the 54 machine, 00 in the Truck Series. That's Matt Weber in the Haas Automation T-shirt. He came all the way down to the pit box of third place, John West Townley, to discuss strategy with crew chief Kevin Reed. Kevin Reed went to his notes, looked at them. He's now coming back to discuss what lap they want to come together. They discussed, do we wait till a caution, or what lap can we pit? I can read lips pretty good. I think they're coming on lap 55 or 56. They don't want to run out of fuel and maximize their opportunity to run out of fuel somewhere. So lap 55, 56, we'll be right here to see if this leader talks to the other driver and the other team into cooperating and coming down pit road together. So if it is under green, they can go back out together and chase down the field in drafting.
You know, I was thinking about that, though. There's two ways to look at this, Phil. One, you wait as long as you can within your fuel window trying to get the caution. But number two, if you sense it's going to stay green, the earlier you come, the more opportunity you have to get back in this thing.
Yeah, I think I would come at the very last moment. Now that I've made my bet, I would have come on that last caution flag. I really didn't understand why those guys stayed out. They would have bought so much more insurance of fuel. But now we've got the caution. Tom Hessert, you see, with some damage, left rear tires down. Looks like he may have got into the wall. That's going to take that all out the window. Everyone's going to be able to come to pit road now. Tough break for Tom Hessert, though.
Hessert qualified inside the top 5. He pitted at lap 25 and was running in the 19th position when he had his issue. Third caution of the day. A perfect opportunity for Cole Custer, John West Townley, Sean Corr, Brett Hudson, all who were going to have to make a stop. And there you see the debris off the car of Tom Hessert.
Yeah, it looked like Tom may have run over something. Remember, he was the first guy to jump up into that third lane. We've had a couple incidents where there's been a bunch of speedy dry and a lot of debris that the track workers have picked up. So he could have run over something. Did a nice job, I'm sure, keeping that car out of the wall. Watch him. You see, he probably felt like he had a problem because he dropped behind the pack. You see that tire come apart there. Look at that. Wow, around it goes.
Let's go on board with Tom Hessert and listen as he goes to turn 3.
You could hear it vibrating a little bit before it actually went. He did an amazing job. Got completely sideways. Did an amazing job of not getting into the outside wall with that car.
Saw Josh Williams make that unscheduled pit stop just after we had gone back under the green flag following our last caution, and Tom Hessert has an issue with the tire here as well. And there had been no history of tire problems throughout the weekend or throughout the test, so there wasn't any concern. And we'll get a follow-up from the guys downstairs, see what they can find off of that 25 car of Tom Hessert. First, though, the item of business, these drivers that undoubtedly will come down pit road and are well within their pit window. Cole Custer, John West Townley, and Brett Hudson have to stop here. They will make their way to the pit lane with 35 laps remaining. Let's go to Ray.
48 car said, I need a little bit of something different in the aero, whatever you can do. His crew chief said, we'll definitely clear off the front. We'll give you a window tear off. And we're also going to tell you a little bit of how to adjust with the fans. Now, also, we see Cole Custer is on pit road in his Haas Automation Chevrolet. He has said this thing has been great. A little bit of a hang-up on the right front as they put the tires on, Jim Trado.
Tear off the windshield. The tape has been applied under the word Impala on the nose of John West Townley's Chevrolet. They got the fuel in. 8 seconds of fuel is what they needed. They got it. Townley's down and away.
Looked like this time everybody executed pretty well along pit road. Most of these guys coming down insurance, because there were only 3 or 4 that we felt like had to come there that were outside of the fuel window, and actually most of them had not been to pit road yet of that group that came. 3 of the 4 we know of. And everyone's gotten their service, returned to the track, and there's the reason we're under caution. A tire issue for Tom Hessert in that 25 machine.
200 miles an hour here. They'll run over 200 miles an hour tonight in the Sprint Unlimited, and they run over 300 miles an hour with those things.
Good to have NHRA on Fox.
And a quarter mile, by the way.
Yeah, there's a little get up and go there.
Yeah.
So Frank Kimmel stayed out, and he was not the only one. John Ferrier did the same. Bo Lamastus, Chase Briscoe staying on the track. Will Kimmel. I said Frank Kimmel. It was Will Kimmel that stayed out and will be the race leader. Frank Kimmel, see where Frank's going to, he's going to restart 12th, although he did come there and get a splash of fuel. In fact, if you look, the top 8 all stayed on track, but should be good to go on fuel. So let's look ahead a little bit. Here we are, season opener at Daytona. Got a couple of short track races following this one. We're back with you at Talladega. A great schedule of events in 2016 for the ARCA Racing Series.
Look at that cross section. We've got another super speedway at Talladega. That great 2.5 miler, Pocono for a couple of races. One of the best short tracks in the country in Iowa. That 2 mile repaved oval a couple years ago at Michigan, ultra fast. And you got Chicago, Kentucky, and we'll end it at Kansas.
Mentioned Will Kimmel stays out here, so he'll be the race leader. And the guy who had dominated the early portion of this race, Cole Custer, had to come down pit road and get fuel. He's going to restart in the 13th position. Tom Hessert back in after he had that tire let go. Right now he's being scored 27th, 1 lap down from the race leader.
Yeah, his guys have done some amazing work to only lose 1 lap with that Florida Lottery Toyota. Going to be a whole different race here when we get this restart, Adam.
Go back and look and see what happened with Tom Hessert when that tire let go. And you and I commenting during the break what a great job he did of hanging on to this vehicle heading into turn 3.
Yeah, I think he had a feeling that something was going wrong there. We saw him running well up inside that front pack. He fallen back a little bit. Listen to this. He just drove that thing the entire time, really did an outstanding job. But you see all the damage that the carcass of the tire did to that car. That wasn't from hitting the wall. All that damage to the right rear corner, as well as he dipped down on the apron. That did a little bit of damage to that left front.
But easily, that thing could have slid up and slammed the outside wall, taking him completely out of contention. As it stands, he might be a lap down, but he's kept that 25 in the game, and he's running full time. You want every point you can get.
Yeah, as Ray mentioned at the very top of the show, these guys running full time for the championship don't want to come out of here with a 40th place finish. They've got to maximize what they can do. Tom Hessert's going to stay out to the very end.
Will Kimmel and that team, they lost a couple of cars here during the test last month. Worked really hard to build the machine he's piloting right now. Quickest in final practice yesterday. And Kimmel has the race lead with 32 laps to go as we go back under the green flag.
He's got the 42 of Bo LeMastus lined up right behind him. Bo was top 10 in points last year. Did really a great job. Not a great deal of experience, but really did a nice job last year and doing a great job here today.
The two kid from Cunningham Motorsports, the rookies, doing a really nice job. Have had their fair share of problems here today. Chase Briscoe starting at the rear. Kevin Thomas Jr. involved in that early accident, but both solidly inside the top 10.
How about that outside line led by that 05 of John West Townley? He has William Byron, the 55, lined up right behind him, making that outside line work.
Saw John Ferrier dropping back. He restarted in the 2nd position. On board here with Frank Kimmel, sliding by on the inside. It's his nephew Will who's out front, and right behind him, the man out of Louisville, Kentucky, Bo LeMastus, who does such a great job in that 42.
This is the first time that Cole Custer, that 54 car, has been anywhere but out front. We know he has a fast race car. Let's see if he can make that thing work to get up towards the front again.
Reminds me a little bit of when he got that first career win in the Camping World Truck Series. On the pole, dominated at New Hampshire, made the decision to get 4 tires late, put him in traffic, and he was able to work his way through and get the win on the Magic Mile. And speaking of magic, John West Townley trying to make it happen in that outside lane and get around Will Kimmel.
Yeah, they've got some good fast cars lined up behind them. Brandon Lynn's really done a nice job in that 58 car. I'm sorry, Kyle Weatherman in the 58 car. I think that's the first time we've even talked about Kyle Weatherman since the very beginning of this show, and there he is running right now up in the top 5.
Yeah, lost an engine yesterday in practice, wasn't able to get ready to go out to qualify. He starts deep in the field. He's worked his way up front, and the other youngster doing a great job. I just mentioned him. Chase Briscoe is in the mix, and at 77, there's a look at LeMastus on the inside of Weatherman.
Kyle Weatherman, 28 starts in his career prior to today, 7 second-place finishes, as well as a win on the road course in New Jersey last year.
Sean Corr in that brown 48 doing a nice job. Sarah Cornett Ching solid behind him. Got Tyler Audie making some gains in the outside lane. And left of your screen, they continue to work on the 25 of Tom Hessert.
Yeah, so that tire may have ripped a brake line or something loose, and unfortunately they're going to spend some more time on pit road. You see William Byron trying to lead that outside line up. He's right now side by side with Will Kimmel. John West Townley, once he was able to make that outside line work, he got to the front, pulled down to the bottom of the racetrack.
Look at Chase Briscoe giving a little shove in the draft. Maybe too much. He and Bo LeMastus got separated a little bit there.
Look how tight that outside line is with Kyle Weatherman right up on the rear bumper of William Byron. You see William has cleared the 69 of Will Kimmel. He's able to pull down to the bottom if he so chooses to get behind John West Townley, as well as Kyle Weatherman does.
On point now, John West Townley feeling good in the latter stages, Jim.
And he's paired with a crew chief that took him to victory lane in 2013, Kevin Reed, who just asked his driver, our race leader John West Townley, give me a water temp when you can. He said 200. That's about ideal in these kind of conditions. The ARCA Elmore 396, a question mark last year, performing to full song. There's Kevin Reed. He is watching his driver. He spent so much time in the shop. So proud to post pictures on Facebook. I was following along. He is the man in charge of this race car, and they're doing a great job getting that young man back to the point, Ray.
Kyle Weatherman had an engine problem. We documented that. It was a rear main seal on that, so they did not even get an opportunity to qualify. We see Sean Corr now get a little loose right in the center of the field, and everybody's able to take evasive action and get by him, so Corr will slow down, but no incident. That was excellent there. Back to the Weatherman story, Kyle has a race car that used to be from Penske, and when they decided to put the new engine in, the ARCA Elmore engine that went in there was number 79. That is one of the newest engines. 79 and 80 are the newest in this garage, so he says the steam underneath the hood has been excellent. Weatherman up to third place.
Another kid that's really making some gains is William Byron. On that last restart, he was 10th. Average running position today, his 9th. Despite the fact he started on the front row, he hasn't been out front all day long, but here he is. When the money is on the line, running in the runner-up position.
Yeah, John West Townley restarted in the 8th spot. It took him 3 laps to get to the lead. We know that Zaxby's Chevrolet is fast. William really doing a nice job right now, right on the tire tracks of John West Townley.
Will Kimmel, who was the leader on our last restart, finds himself in the 4th position. It's Bo Lamastis behind him. Dylan Lupton inside the top 10. Ray Gaulding just outside the top 10, scored in 11th.
How about the 54 of Cole Custer? Led so much of this race, led 42 laps till he made his pit stop. Right now hung back in the 14th spot with only 26 laps to go.
You feel like we're getting down to it, 26 laps to go, and yet it's an eternity at this place.
Oh, yeah.
Two laps, and anything can happen. Closing on the end at Daytona, John West Townley looking for his 2nd victory at the World Center of Racing. Setting up to be a good finish for the ARCA Racing Series here at Daytona. 22 laps to go, and when we wrap up with their season opener, we're going to Charlotte. It's NASCAR race day. The opener for John Roberts in the gang. We'll visit with the 2014 Sprint Cup champion Kevin Harvick and get you ready for the Sprint Unlimited. It airs tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on your local Fox affiliate. But our priority right now, getting the last 21 laps in of this season opener in the Lucas Oil 200 for the ARCA cars. John West Townley won this race in 2013, started up front. He is the race leader. Cole Custer, who was on the pole in this race, led 42 laps. But because of the way things played out strategy-wise, he finds himself back in the 12th position.
Had a little bit of an extended stay on pit road for his only pit stop he made here. Lost his track position right now. We're getting inside of 20 laps to go, almost 20 laps to go now. And I'm sure right now Cole Custer running in the 12th spot said, I can't win from back here. What am I going to do to get up to the front here? And these guys have really done a nice job of staying in line. He has Frank Kimmel right in front of him. He's going to need some help to make something happen here.
John West Townley loves this. He's out front, got everybody behind him. He can kind of manage this race. But the question becomes, when is someone going to step out of line and go after the race leader?
Yeah, and not one guy. They're going to have some help to do it.
A couple of 18-year-old kids behind him. William Byron, who qualified on the front row. Nearly won a couple of ARCA races last year. One on a short track, one at an intermediate.
Here's our 2nd pack right here, led by Brett Hudson in the 15 car. That's from 15th on back. See, that's Brandon Lynn right in front of that onboard. Look at the lap cars these guys are going to have to go around. It's a little bit easier when you're running single file to get around these lap cars.
When they come across the start-finish line, it made 19 laps to go.
Right now, I'm perfectly content if I'm up in the top 5, top 7, just right along here. We'll put some laps in the book, and then we'll see what happens later. But if I'm back there where Frank is, maybe Greg Gaulding right in front of Frank in that 38 Krispy Kreme car, as well as Cole Custer, say, hey, why don't we get together, get our crew chiefs and our spotters together, maybe 3 of us get to that outside line and see if we can make any ground up. If we don't, we can always pull back in line.
And if you're going to have success here, you got to have great communication from the spotter stand, the driver, and the guys on pit road.
Got to have some friends here.
Some great stories inside our top 10. Number of drivers that will be back here with us next Friday night when the Camping World Truck Series opens up 2016. John West Townley a part of that group. William Byron will be here. I'm going to see Cole Custer, who right now finds himself in the 12th position, on board with Sarah Cornett-Ching, the Bugband.net Chevrolet. She really has been impressive, really, throughout the weekend. 9th right now with 18 laps remaining.
You heard her. There we go. There was a couple cars jumping in the outside. Frank's going to lead Cole Custer around Greg Gaulding. They're going to see if they can make any ground up here. And if they can just get one at a time, if they can work together to get by Greg Gaulding, just get one car at a time, do one a lap.
But as soon as they hopped out of line, they started to drift back just a bit, and so did Greg Gaulding. So you got to manage this just right. And now it looks like as they come off of turn 2, perhaps they're starting to make some gains in that outside lane, and maybe Sarah Cornett-Ching going to jump in line with them.
I think it's time. We're inside of 20 laps to go. Try to see if we can make something happen. You see, Frank was able to clear Greg Gaulding. Cole Custer wasn't able to do that. They don't want to run side by side too long. You see Cole Custer pull right back in line behind Greg Gaulding, and he will push him back up to Frank and the pack.
16 laps to go. John West Townley is the race leader. William Byron is behind him. Then it's Kyle Weatherman, Will Kimmel, and Bo LeMastus, the top 5. Back live at Daytona, only 14 laps to go in the Lucas Oil 200. It's the season opener for the ARCA Racing Series. John West Townley is the race leader. William Byron behind him. Then it's Kyle Weatherman, Will Kimmel, and Bo LeMastus, the top 5, with now 13 laps remaining. Let's go to pit road and hear from Jim Trado.
One thing that I noticed in practice was a lot of teams are saying, who are fast? Who is the ones we want to be with? At this point in the race, Chase Briscoe, the youngster in the number 77 Cunningham Dodge, desperately wants to get to the backside of the car, 2 ahead of him. That'd be Will Kimmel. Kimmel and the Cunningham rookies really worked well together as Kimmel was leading them in practice. They went to the top of the charts yesterday. After Will went through all the problems with this new Chevy, they figured it out. They got fast. They're trying to get Chase Briscoe to one more spot ahead of Bo LeMastus to get to that 69 Will Kimmel. His coach on the radio, Stevie Reeves, fellow open wheel racer, spotting for Briscoe to get him in position for a top 5 in his first ever run here at Daytona. Right?
There's a lot of guys in the back here trying to line up to get together. It looked like Greg Gaulding was going to be able to get in that group with Cole Custer. Now we see the 22 coming up to the back of Frank Kimmel. The spotters on the roof are running back and forth, talking to each other, saying, who's going to go? When are we going to go? Frank Kimmel said, I don't have much more time left. We need 3 or 4 cars in a line. I think Cole Custer will get with Kimmel as soon as possible. You see the 22 in the middle of those 2 cars.
Yeah, and the 22, first time he's ever been on a track larger than a half mile. Kevin Thomas Jr. won 7 times in a USAC sprint car in 2013. He's got a dirt background, but he is flexing his muscles at Daytona here today.
If I'm his spotter and his crew chief, I'm going to say stick behind that 46 car. He's been here. He knows what he's doing. He's been a runner-up here 3 times. Follow him.
See Tom Hessert back on track in that outside lane. He perhaps, if that car is where it needs to be in the repair category, could help somebody get a little bit of a draft and suck up to the front, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to aid him here.
No, I think Tom's just going to stay out of the way here, but it looks like Frank's making a move here. He gets by Willie Mullins in the 34. He's bringing the 22 with him, Jim.
The nose got punched in that 22 early on. 3 pit stops to repair it. This kid is back in contention. His spotter is Joey Meyer, Brad Keselowski's championship, Sprint Cup championship spotter. As they're working through this, the kid is all ears. He's doing everything he was told over the weekend by crew chief Paul Andrews. He now is trying to get back to Frank, but look at the moves this kid's making. Very impressive. His second ever pavement start. His other 30 laps in a pro late model, New Smyrna down the road. This kid's impressive.
You talk about learning on the fly. There's a lot of them doing it right now at the front with 10 laps remaining.
Yeah, the tension just ratchets up right now with 10 laps to go. See, Cole Custer was able to get by Frank Kimmel. Cole now has moved up into the 8th spot. He's getting within striking distance. He still needs to have some help to make a move. Look at him jump to the outside. Frank, I think, is going to go with him because Frank knows he needs to make something happen here inside of 10 to go.
It's Willie Mullins in that 34 in front of him.
They really need Gray Gaulding as well in that 38 car, maybe Sarah Cornett-Ching. They need 3 or 4 cars, as Ray just mentioned, to make something happen. Look at the run that the 54 of Cole Custer. Frank wasn't really close enough to give him much help there.
But he is starting to make some gains. Was 14th, got to 12th, and now the 54 of Cole Custer putting himself into the 7th position.
You see Frank jumped up behind Cole Custer. Gray Gaulding, the 38, should do the same thing. Now Cole's going to dip back down to get a little bit of draft off those cars in front of him. He doesn't want to leave Frank out, but he needs to get a little sniff so he can propel himself up a little more forward.
9 laps to go, and a bit of a role reversal from what we saw in the early stages of this race. It was Cole Custer leading on that inside lane. John West Townley trying to make it work in the outside. Now Cole Custer starting to drift up and work that outside lane. John West Townley, the race leader, and holding on to that yellow line. 8 laps to go.
I think praying works here too for John West Townley's crew.
When you've got a chance to win at this place, you will do anything to close the deal. Not only would it be John West Townley's 2nd win at Daytona in an ARCA car, give him a lot of confidence going into this week as he comes back for a full season in the Camping World Truck Series. On board with Sarah Cornett-Ching, it was Kevin Thomas Jr. that drove to the inside of her.
A solid race so far for Sarah Cornett-Ching. Right now running in the 12th spot, still in that lead draft. They've got about 18 seconds on that next pack, so a good solid day for Sarah Cornett-Ching. We're kind of splitting this lead pack up a little bit. Cole Custer is at the very back of the front of that lead draft. Now they've got a lap car in between them. I'm not sure that second group is going to be able to catch that first group.
Went around the lap machine, making it 7 to go. Kind of broke up that group out front.
Willie Mullins, the 34, leads that group. Gray Gaulding, the 38, right behind him, as well as Frank Kimmel in the 46.
Jim mentioned those Cunningham Motorsports vehicles and how they work together with Will Kimmel. In fact, that's the reason Will Kimmel was quickest in final practice yesterday. Got great drafting help from the 77 in the 22. You feel like right here, if you're either one of those teams, Kimmel running in the 4th position, Briscoe running 6th in the 77, if they could hook up together, maybe they could make something happen in that outside lane.
Remember, in the last couple of years, Will Kimmel's actually driven for Cunningham Motorsports in a handful of races. Looks like Will peeks to the outside for just a moment, trying to look out to the outside of the Kyle Weatherman. Didn't have anything there. You see, he lost a little bit of momentum there. Bola Mastis really doing a fine job in that Crosley Brands Dodge number 42.
Looking at that lead pack, 2nd place William Byron 18, 3rd place Kyle Weatherman 18. And you got Chase Briscoe, 21 years old, running 6th. Cole Custer 7th. He's also an 18-year-old. Down now to 5 laps remaining. Early part of this race belonged to Cole Custer. Led 42 laps after starting on the pole. But the average pass for the win here at Daytona in the last 6 ARCA races happened with 30 laps remaining. That's when John West Townley got the lead. Working around some lap cars here. What about Will Kimmel, Ray?
Well, remember, Adam, his cars are always red, but when they came to the test down here, his 69 and the other team car were riding along in a pack, and a car blew an engine right in front of them. Both cars made heavy contact with the wall, so Will said we didn't have time to fix them. We had to go get another one. The black car that he's driving today was a backup car for Ty Dillon. He said he didn't have time to paint it red, but he said if we have good results here at Daytona today, we may just start running a black car every week.
And the results may be falling his way, Ray, because his drafting partner has arrived. Chase Briscoe has jumped up to 5th, right behind Will Kimmel, and that's the combination that was so good in final practice yesterday. Meanwhile, Cole Custer hung in that outside lane.
Cole made a move. He almost got up to the front there. Ooh, something happened to Will Kimmel. Probably out of gas, I would guess.
For Will Kimmel, the last time he was on pit road, lap 20, that could very well be the case.
56 laps. I guess I would say Will Kimmel is out of fuel.
Was running in the 4th position and out of the draft with 4 laps remaining. Make it 3 to go at Daytona.
They rolled the dice. He and his dad, Bill Kimmel, rolled the dice to get the track position. They're going to come up a little bit short. We're hearing that he was speeding coming down pit road again, and probably the engine shut off. Had no idea how fast he was running because he had no tachometer.
3-car breakaway at the front, and everything that has transpired here in the last lap or so really starting to fall the way of John West Townley.
Going to be awfully hard for those 2 cars to make anything happen there. They're going to need some help. We've got a few lap cars up in front of our leaders. If that could jumble up the field. Chase Briscoe doing an outstanding job here. Let's see if he can lead that second pack as we come to 2 to go back up to the front pack.
I want to remind everyone there's a number of cars in this lead draft that made their pit stop at lap 25. Will Kimmel pitted at lap 20, ran out of fuel. There are others up front that could have some question marks behind their name when it comes to fuel mileage late in this race.
Yeah, Dylan Lupton right there, probably out of gas as well. The ARCA officials are telling him to turn in. Doesn't look like he's going to have enough speed to get back around.
Could we get a caution?
If he turns in here, he's going to get off the racetrack here. You see them lap by Will Kimmel. But that allowed Chase Briscoe, the 77 car, to catch up to Kyle Weatherman now.
Starting to get interesting. White flag in the air as they come through the tri-oval. John West Townley, 2.5 miles away from his 2nd win at Daytona.
See Frank Kimmel jump on the line back there running around 7th or 8th. He's got a little bit of help on the outside. Is he going to have enough time?
Good start to what could be his final season in the ARCA Racing Series. Drafting help from Cole Custer is there. And he's getting a big push. Kevin Thomas Jr. also in that mix with Frank Kimmel. Not sure they have enough time to get to John West Townley. The leaders in turn 4 for the final time. Big shove in that outside lane for Frank Kimmel.
How about all the way right now up to the 4th spot?
Where did the momentum come from? The 10-time champion trying to make it happen in the outside lane, but he's not going to get there. John West Townley, a winner at the World Center of Racing.
Kevin Reed goes back to victory lane once again with John West Townley here at Daytona.
He did it in 2013, leading 9 laps. Today, he was out front for 33 circuits. And what a great start to 2016 for John West Townley. The Georgia native is a winner in the Lucas Oil 200. The Lucas Oil 200 is complete at Daytona International Speedway for the 2nd time in his ARCA career. John West Townley is a winner. And as he continues to celebrate, we remind you NASCAR Race Day coming up next live on FS1. 2 hours to get you ready for the Sprint Unlimited that happens tonight live from Daytona. 8 p.m. Eastern Time on your local Fox affiliate. Sun is setting on what's going to be a cool night here in Central Florida. But a great start to 2016 for John West Townley. Going to run a number of races in the ARCA Racing Series in 2016, and I'd say he's off to a pretty good start.
Certainly is. We're going to see both the top 2 finishers next week in the Truck Series event here at Daytona.
Brett Hudson had to start at the back, found his way inside the top 15, running top 5 in the middle stages of this race. Will Kimmel, who led some laps, ended up finishing 18th after running out of fuel.
See, Dylan Lupton had a good run early, got involved in a little bit of a skirmish, ran out of fuel, it looked like, at the very end. Finishes in the 24th spot. Tom Hessert, what a tough break for him. Finished back in 28th.
A lot of really good drivers on this page involved in that opening incident. Cole Powell, Gus Dean, Austin Wayne Self, and the man who's won here 8 times, Bobby Gerhart, finishes 37th. Let's hear from the 10-time champion, Frank Kimmel. Ray?
Well, Frank Kimmel was part-time a year ago, comes back with a full-time effort, brand new sponsor with Juice Batteries, and you get a top 5 today. How was it?
That's pretty remarkable. I tell you what, the guys fought really hard, and of course, a lot of crashes today that put a lot of people out. And you know, we had great pit strategy. Dave and Kelly did a super job. We stayed out on these General tires, and they ran perfect the whole race. We never put a tire on it, so pretty special day for us. Good year to, you know, we're championship contenders, and that's what you got to do, start out in top 5.
Tell me about the end of that race. It appeared that you were trying to get 2 or 3 different guys to go with you, and it just never could line up.
Yeah, I wasn't real good, and I think everybody pretty much knew it. So, you know, we would sneak out there, and the car was really fast for the first half of the straightaway, but it would really struggle from there on in. And the 54, I don't think we just meshed up very good. That car was really fast, but he couldn't help me like I wanted him to. And then once he got ahead of me, I couldn't catch him to help him. So it just worked out really well. I got to think the 22 car, he pushed really hard. I think we gained 4 or 5 spots down the backstretch, and that's the first time I think I was legitimately passing people all the way down the backstretch. It was pretty cool. So it was a great day. Got to thank John and Ashley Stang for you know, believing in me and let me do this.
All right, 10 or 11 guys going for the championship. Kimmel one of those, and he gets a top 5. Jim Trado?
We are in victory lane. John West Townley and his crew chief Kevin Reed were here in 2013 with a different team. This is now Athenian Motorsports and Dad Tony Townley's time to shine. This team is a family operation. They brought in Kevin to build this race car, to build a Zaxby Chevrolet, to get this car ready. I mentioned Facebook earlier. He was a proud papa building this brand new car, and now John West Townley gets to celebrate with his team as a victor again here at Daytona in Gatorade Victory Lane. He's trying to climb the door, but you know what? We're going to climb in first. John West, you got to tell me. Your crew chief said we need 8 seconds of fuel. He said, is that enough? And he said, we had too good of a car to keep you short. Tell us how good this run really was.
Man, it was awesome. We had it planned out from the beginning, and very rarely at these racetracks does it ever work out like you planned. And tonight it did, and it was awesome. You know, I just got to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus, and got to thank my family and Zaxby's and General Tire. Put some great rubber up under this thing, and Zaxby's. I mean, it's been an awesome night.
You were the champion of the outside line for a long time early on. I thought maybe there was a lot of fuel consumption because not everybody played with you out there, but when you got to the bottom, is that what you really wanted to do? Because it certainly worked out. From there on forward, you held the lead.
Yeah, absolutely. I was a little worried to begin with that it was gonna, when I pulled down there, that they were gonna surge forward, but it ended up working out. And once I got out there, they couldn't quite get to me, and which was kind of familiar to me because before, when I was behind some other guys, I kind of had the same problem. So we just kind of played that to our advantage for the rest of the night.
How sweet it is his dad Tony already has his trophy in hand, the champion of the Lucas Oil 200, powered by General Tire. He is here in Victory Lane. John West Townley, your winner at Daytona once again.
A special day for him. Great afternoon here in Daytona as the ARCA Racing Series opens up 2016 in style. Next time they're racing here at Daytona, it's the Sprint Unlimited, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You can watch it live on your local Fox affiliate. Right now, it's time to get you ready. The season debut of race day. Let's send it to Charlotte and John Roberts.